כולם, שמי חיים מיכאל ואני מעביר הדרכות בפיתוח תוכנה כבר למעלה מ-20 שנה. אני עובד בעיקר עם חברות הייטק, אבל אני גם מעביר קורסים ציבוריים, ואת הקורסים הציבוריים שאני מעביר, אני מעביר כאן. אם זו קבוצה גדולה, אז זה הפסיליטי שאתם רואים סביבכם. לעולם לא יהיו בכיתה יותר מ-14 סטודנטים, כדי שזה יהיה פרנדלי ולא צפוף. וקבוצות יכולות להיות גם קבוצות של 3, 4, 5 סטודנטים. יש קורסים שרצים עם מספרים יותר קטנים של סטודנטים. אני בדרך כלל פותח, גם אם זה מספר קטן. מה שאנחנו נעשה היום זה בעצם היכרות עם שפת התכנות פייתון. אני אשתדל לעבור על הבסיס שבבסיס, מה שבדרך כלל מפספסים כשלומדים בכל מיני קורסים אונליין, כך שמי שבחר לעצמו ללמוד לבד, אז אני חושב שזה יעזור לו, כי יהיו כמה דברים בסיסיים שפה יקבל עליהם עבורם השלמה. זה בסך הכל מפגש של שעתיים, אנחנו לא הולכים לחסות פה את כל השפה, אבל אני יכול לספר לכם, וכאן מאחורי יש ברושורים, תוכלו לבוא אחר כך ולקחת אותם, ואולי אתם גם מכירים את החומר שמאחורי הברושורים. יש קורס בפייתון מאוד מאוד יסודי שאני מעביר, של 90 שעות אקדמיות, 18 מפגשים, פעם בשבוע, הרבה תרגול בין מפגש למפגש. הם תמיד מוקלטים בווידאו, כמו שעכשיו אני מקליט בווידאו את המפגש הזה, ולאחר מכן יהיה לכם גישה לצילומי וידאו. אז יש לכם כאן ברושור בנוגע לקורס הזה. יש כאן מאחורי עוד ברושורים בנוגע לקורסים נוספים שנפתחים בתקופה הקרובה, אם זה מעניין אתכם. ובואו נתחיל. אוקיי, אז עליי כבר סיפרתי, ובואו נדבר על פייתון. אז אני יכול לספר לכם שיותר מכל מאוד בולט בפייתון הקלות, עקומת הלימוד המאוד מאוד ידידותית בלימוד השפה. זה טוב מאוד למי שעבורו זו שפה ראשונה, זה טוב מאוד עבור מי שכבר יודע תכנות ורוצה ללמוד שפה נוספת. וכיוון שמדובר בשפה הפופולרית ביותר בעולם, יחד עם ג'אווה וג'אווה סקריפט, ומשתמשים בה הרבה מאוד, בדוגמאות למשל סרבר סייד של גוגל, סרבר סייד של יוטיוב, ולא חסר. גם כאן אני יכול לספר לכם, בכל המתחם הזה יש הרבה חברות סטארט-אפ שמשתמשות בפייתון. אז to keep up with כל השינויים, כדאי גם להכיר את השפה הזו. בדרך אגב, כמה מי שנמצא כאן עובד בפיתוח, אוקיי, או לומד / סיים לימודים וזה הכיוון שלו? אחד. אוקיי, אז כולכם פה בעצם ירוקים לגמרי, אין לכם מושג בתכנות.
ירוקים.
לא עובדים, אוקיי, אז סליחה.
מה אמרת?
יש,
אבל לא
עובדים בזה, אוקיי.
תכנות בפינס להיות נחשב?
גם כל דבר נחשב, בוודאי. אז בואו נשאל אחרת, למי יש רקע בתכנות, רקע כלשהו? אוקיי. ופה שאני רואה כמה שאין שום רקע בתכנות. עוד פעם בואו נשאל את השאלה. למי יש רקע בתכנות, רקע כלשהו שירים את היד? אז שתכם אין שום רקע, שום דבר, כלום. אוקיי, ואתה? אוקיי, בסדר.
Do you have programming background? That's the question. Experience.
Do you have any background in programming?
Well, we are, I mean, the team originally from Moscow, Russia.
Okay.
This is the second time I attend your presentation.
Okay.
Every time I read the invitation and I'm hoping that they will be in English. But that's okay.
Just a moment. I'm okay with delivering the session in English. Just if it is okay with everyone else, because I promised that it would be in Hebrew. I said in the description for this meetup, I specified that the meetup will be delivered in Hebrew and the material will be in English. But wait, is it okay with everyone that I will speak in English and explain in English? Yeah?
I don't mind.
You don't mind? Okay.
Don't bother.
Everyone is okay with that. We want to assist. Why not? Everyone will assist himself or herself with improving the English, and you will get something from the meeting.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
No problem. My pleasure. So, give me P. Give me Y. Give me tea. You're silent. No one cooperate.
Behave.
Okay, I will stop here. Well, actually, when you move forward in Python to the more difficult topics, there you will find the best material, the best stuff, the best biscuit, the best, call it whatever. You can go Okay, so Python is open source, but it's not unique for Python. There are many other programming languages that are open source. Open source means that the entire code is open, but don't mistake, when you see something that is presented as an open source project, open source language, it doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want. It just means that the code is open, so you can take a look inside, that's all. Part of that, there is the license that specifies if you should pay money or not, what you can do for free, etc. So Python basically is free, and you can use it, and many companies use it. And comparing with many other languages, programming languages I know, I can tell you that Python is the simplest programming language to learn. It's amazing how simple it is, how forgiveness when you write code. It is even nearly impossible to write code that is hardly to understand, because the spaces mean something. So unlike other programming language, when you use braces here, there is a meaning for every space. So the outcome is almost always a code you can read, understand, even if the programmer is not the most organized person, even then. Okay, named after Monty Python. You know Monty Python, this is the origin for the name. What else? I don't read from the slides. You can do it by yourself. You can take someone from the street, he will read for you, or you can take a program to read the slides. So this isn't why you came. You can use the slides afterwards and read. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's stop here. Similar to many other programming languages today, Python has a virtual machine, which means that you write your code in Python, and that code is compiled into something that feels like a assembler, but it's not assembler. It's just looks like, feels like, and that outcome, that kind of assembler, you can execute it on a virtual machine. A virtual machine is a software that emulates a computer on which that assembly code is executed. So there is a virtual machine for running Python on nearly every platform. So basically you can write a code in Python, and then you can execute it on Windows, Solaris, Mac OS, Linux, whatever you want. It's not unique for Python. Many other programming languages these days enjoy the same benefit from using a virtual machine.
But is there a possibility for a program that was programmed for Windows not to work for Linux or for Unix?
Of course, it can always happen. The question was, is it possible that I will write code specifically for a specific platform?
In my Windows and
I understood. I just repeat the question because I want the video clip that is currently captured to include the question. So the question was, is it possible that I will develop a program in Python for a specific operation system, and then when I try to execute it on another, it won't work? Of course, it is possible. It is possible because a program in Python is a collection of modules. Each module can be developed in Python, but you can also develop a module in C or C++. And because of that, you can end up with software that can be executed on a specific operation system only. Because once you develop a module in C and you develop a version of that module for Windows only, for example, and then you use that module in the software you develop in Python, you end up with a software that is compatible with Windows only. But of course, if you take that specific module and you rewrite, redevelop it again and again for each and every platform you target, then you can, of course, have eventually a software that you can execute on each and every platform you target. So depends on what you do. Depends, exactly. But this is also the power of Python, because many complicated, sophisticated things are developed in C++, when you need performance. So you can develop a very sophisticated algorithm, maybe something involved with voice over IP or 3D or something, and then you can wrap it as a module and use it from code you write in Python, a very simple code, enjoying the benefits of Python, being a very simple programming language to learn, to use. And through this meeting, I hope that you will see, especially those who come with background in other programming languages, I hope that you will see what I see when I code in Python, especially the simplicity when using that programming language. Okay, so let's move forward. Blah blah blah. Okay, by the way, by the end of the meeting, we shall have a kind of small competition, and the winner will win a T-shirt with the Python logo in front. I brought few sizes just in case. So pay attention. From time to time, I will specify specific items relevant for that quiz, like this, for example. Not very important, but history. The one who invented Python in 1989. In 2008, the Python 3 was released, and there were lots of changes. And I can tell you that since that year till recently, many companies continued to use Python 2 because they were using many libraries that didn't have a version for Python 3. But these days, I believe that nearly, let's say something about around 90% of all companies already shifted to Python 3. So the problem of Python 2 is actually no longer exists. And they also announced just recently that the support for Python 2 and new version is terminated, so everyone should use Python 3. So the big problem, the chaos we had, is away behind us. PSF, this is the organization responsible for developing Python. They continuously release new versions of Python. Okay, so what do we need in order to write code in Python? Well, you need the Python runtime, or some people still call it interpreter, because many years ago, Python was a language that you wrote code, and then interpreter, which is a software was going over, checked each line and executed separately. But as I explained before, it isn't the case today. Today we have a virtual machine. So anyway, still many people still use the word interpreter. So if you see Python interpreter, the meaning is it means the Python execution running environment. And you download it from python.org website. I sent you all an email. Here on this board you can see the Wi-Fi password. So if you came with a laptop and you still haven't downloaded and installed according to the email I sent you, just connect to Wi-Fi and download the Python execution runtime. Once you download and install, because I believe most of you use Windows, so you download the file, exe file, and then you need to install it. Next. You know that? Next.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Why do we have to use a virtual machine? I just cannot understand. Is it for make it easier to run on different OS?
Well, I repeat. Yeah, of course. I will repeat the question and explain exactly what he wants us to explain and what you want me to explain. First, the question was, for what purpose do we need the virtual machine? So the virtual machine is not a unique invention of Python. Absolutely not. Many think that Java is the programming language that started with a virtual machine, but actually there was another language before. Just a moment. I want to explain, but I want to use the... Okay. Just a moment. Maybe just... Okay. iPad. This is it, I hope. Okay, this is the new toy I'm using when I teach these days. For those who came late, I record the meeting as I do when delivering training in every course, every seminar. Whenever I deliver a training, professional training, I capture it on video so later the students can see it again. And recently I started using this nice toy. It allows me to draw, and through drawing, the explanations can be more clear, clarity improves. So we have different different operation systems in our world. Let's say we have Windows. Let's say we have Linux. Let's say we have Mac OS. Just a moment. Allow me the pleasure of drawing a bit and explaining. I enjoy it. Give me a moment, please.
Please.
Okay. Well, long time ago, and I mean 30 years ago, the most popular programming language was C, C++, and then when you wanted to develop a program for a specific device, okay, you could do it, develop a program for a specific hardware, but then if you wanted that very same program to run on another hardware, you had to write it again, because when you develop in C, you develop specific for specific hardware. And that creates complexity, because we have lots of different operation systems and hardwares, and think about small devices as well. So the virtual machine today exists in every programming language I know except for C and C++, and maybe there are a few more, but tens of programming languages that are being used these days have the virtual machine. And the virtual machine is a software developed specifically for a specific operation system.
For every.
Yeah, you can have a virtual machine developed for every operation system. You can have a programming language with a virtual machine developed just for few operation system, okay? And that virtual machine actually turns all platforms into the same.
Like inter-system.
Meaning, when you install a virtual machine on each and every platform, and all virtual machines actually create the same interface. Each one of the versions for the virtual machine. Let's take, for example, virtual machine for Python. When you have separated versions, and each operation system has its own specific version of Python virtual machine, you actually end up with the same interface. So the code you write in Python, it is executed on the virtual machine, and it can be this virtual machine, this virtual. It doesn't matter. It is the same for the code you wrote, the same virtual machine.
But when I have Windows and I want to have Linux in my computer, I also put virtual machine in a virtual box. I don't know how to say it, but it's virtual machine that emulate Unix. So why do I need?
You can have a virtual machine. You can take a virtual machine and install it directly on the operation system. You can have an operation system running on a virtual box, and on top of that operation system install the virtual machine. It doesn't matter.
But then, if I have virtual box for Linux, then I need to have two Python.
Yes, but but you can also it can be enough having one Python virtual machine installed on Windows and that's it. It doesn't. When you write code in Python and you check it and you did it with a specific virtual machine, you don't need to do it again with other virtual machine and check it. Usually, it works fine.
But the Python is when on my computer there is a virtual box for Unix, then I have to have two.
You don't have to install two virtual machines. It can be enough installing one virtual machine on the Windows operation system you are using. It would be enough.
The virtual machine is indicating the Windows or the Linux. It's not indicating the Python.
The virtual machine is it's a software specific for a specific operation system.
Yes.
So you can install a Python virtual machine for Windows on your Windows operation system, and that's it. The fact that you have also Linux or other operation systems, so what?
I understand. So
Okay.
you mean okay? I just want to make sure that I understood. If I may say.
Yeah.
So when I download the Python, I can download an extra Python virtual machine.
Yes.
And this will emulate or will give me the option that each code that I write will be okay for all the.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Any question for the diagram I created?
As far as I understand, this is just makes a common environment.
Exactly.
For all, for Windows,
That's all.
for Linux, for Mac OS, etc.
Exactly.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, so I will shut down this toy. Okay, and get back. Okay, so let's write small program and let's use PyCharm. I suggest using PyCharm. They have a free version, community version. Based on my experience comparing this specific ID with the alternatives, it is the best one by far. So this is my recommendation. I will create a new project. I will call it Python Jumpstart 2020-0210. Okay, and here it is. Every project is just a folder, and if you want to create a new program, just point with the mouse on the folder that was created, right-click the mouse, choose New, and select Python file. So you will get a new file, and the new file will be with the py extension. So let's say hello. This would be the name, and here you can write code in Python and then execute it. PyCharm automatically saves, so you don't need to go and do save or save as. It does it automatically. It also automatically compiles continuously, so if you write wrong code, it will fix it. I mean, not fix it, it will show that there is an error, so you will fix it dynamically, yes. So let's write simple program, a program that will print to the screen, we love Python. Okay, how do you execute it? Right click the mouse and select run hello. Excellent. And here it is, the output of the small code I wrote. That's it, very simple. Compilation is automatically saving the file continuously throughout the development process is automatically.
You don't need to declare nothing and...
No. You can do Well, you can. People with background in software development, you will see that it is possible to create classes and functions. We will see a bit of that shortly. So let's move forward to the next.
ברגע שאתה מתחיל לעבוד צורפים, זה הכל.
Python has simple parts and more sophisticated ones. And if you check what happens in companies using Python, then when the case is automation, usually you will find developers that are less familiar with the more sophisticated parts of Python. The same applies when you find developers that do stuff related to machine learning, data science. Again, usually, not always, usually they will be satisfied with the simple parts of Python. But when you talk with Python developers that developers, sophisticated server side and so on, then usually in those companies on the edge, there are many companies, and every company has its own. Bottom line, when you talk with developers, you will find more and more developers that are well experienced with the more sophisticated parts of Python. And there are sophisticated parts. Not everything in Python is simple. If you come with background in software development, good background, strong background in Java and similar, then moving to Python will be easier, and the more sophisticated parts, most likely if you knew them in the other programming language, as Java for example, you will also know them and find it easy to learn them in Python, because everything you can find in Python that exists in Java, for example, in Python is simpler, usually is simpler. Sorry? Yeah, but just wait a moment and we'll see everything. Not everything, but most of the things. So let's create another file and let's call it dynamic, because the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that Python is a dynamic type programming language, and I want to explain what does it mean for good and bad. Well, first of all, if you take a look at this program, as you can see, the program is executed one line by line, row by line, but I didn't declare that I want to have a variable, its name is A. You don't need. You just write the code and the code is executed line by line and the variables are created automatically. And then when I print, I want to print the value of C, I will get it printed to the screen. Now, the interesting part is that when you have a variable assigned with a value, actually it is about assigning the variable with a reference. A reference, think about it as an address of object that represent this specific value. And this is something that in most online courses they skip about this part because it is a bit complicated, and also because many Python developers are not aware of that complexity, and I think that you should know that, because there are those specific cases that if you are not aware of those most things, you get lost. So what does it mean? A is assigned with a reference for an object that represents the value of 3. I will get back to my toy, just a moment. Okay. I will create a new drawing. So if I say that there is a variable, its name A, it means that there is a memory allocation, memory area that now has a name, and its name is A. And saying that variable A is assigned with a reference for an object is as saying A is assigned with an address for an object. Just that to say reference is more accurate, but I don't want to dig into it now, so just imagine that when I say reference for an object is as if I said an address for an object, okay? And there is an object that represents a specific value, let's say what we have here, what was it, 3?
And 2.2. It was
3, okay, just a moment. So there is an object, it's a reference, let's say it is FA. When I draw and I want to write a number and everyone to think that it is a reference, I use letters and I write a number in hexadecimal. So if I specify FA22, it's a reference for this specific object, and A is assigned with FA22. And the same happens with B. B is assigned with a reference for an object. The object has a reference. Let's say it is 228A. So here we have 228A. And this object represents the value, what was it, 3?
A was 3.
And this was 2.2. Okay. And then when we have the calculation and we have the outcome of A plus B, it means that there is a variable, a new one, its name is C, and that variable holds a reference for a new object that represents 5.2. Now, let's get back to the code itself. I want to print something more. Okay, here I print the value of C. I also want to print what we get when we write type of C. Type of C means I want to get printed to the screen the type of the object that C holds its reference, okay?
Float.
And after that, just a moment, and after that I will assign C with another number, which means I will assign C with a reference for a new object and do the same. And just to be more dramatic, I will also assign it with a string and do the same. And now when I execute the code, I can see that the type of the object that C holds its reference, well, in the beginning it was float, after that int, after that str. And you can also see the word class, which means that over here in line 3, I actually created a new variable, its name is C, and C was assigned with a reference for an object of the type float. Those of you who are familiar with the concept of classes, they understand that C over here is assigned with a reference for an object instantiated from the class float. A class is kind of a template you can use to create new objects. Just imagine creating cookies and you take long time ago, before buying cookies in the supermarket, you used to do it in the kitchen, and I don't know the words in English, but you take flour, flour and water and do like this. I mean, how do you say never mind. And then I took a small shape of bear or butterfly, and then you do like the tack, 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 tack. You created cookies. And each cookie was the same, actually the same. Maybe there was left a small place for ingredients such as chocolate, different types of chocolate. So you had a cookie with Nutella chocolate, another cookie with a cheap kind of Nutella from Belgium that cost less chocolate. Another one was with what? Shachar, chocolate the Shachar, those who know. Anyway, float is the name of a class.
Floating point.
Int is also a name of a class. str is also a name of a class. When you execute this code, then we can see that the variable C here is assigned with a reference for an object of the type float. Here it is assigned with a reference for an object of the type int, and here it is assigned with a reference for an object of the type str. Now this behavior, when having this behavior, we say that the programming language is a dynamic type programming language. There are many programming languages where you need to specify a specific type when you create a variable, and then you need to stick with that type. Here you can see that we don't need to stick with a specific type. There isn't such a thing sticking with a specific type. We don't specify a type when we create a variable, And one moment the variable can hold the reference for an object of the type int, another moment it can hold the reference for another object of a different type. So this is the meaning of dynamic typing for good and bad. The good, very convenient. The bad, it means that when you define a function, I assume that you all are all aware with what the function is from mathematics, yeah? So the function has parameters, and when using a dynamic type programming language, you can't force the parameters to receive values of a specific type. So one developer can imagine that he defined a function that should receive 2 numbers, and the other developers send 2 strings, something happens, and the other developers think that everything is okay. And this is how bugs emerge. So when you develop big system, it can be very problematic. There are ways to cope with that, but this isn't the time to cover those ways to cope with that problem. But it is a problem to be aware of.
You can force the type that you want.
No, you can't force, but there are ways to cope with this problem. I didn't say there is a solution. There are ways to cope. Okay? Okay, yes, please.
There is garbage collector for last object?
Yeah. The question was, do we have a garbage collector? Yes. So the answer is yes. We talked before about the virtual machine. The virtual machine usually comes with something called garbage collector. The garbage collector is executed. Just a small comment. When we started at 6 o'clock, I said that I described this meeting and specified it would be in Hebrew, and the training material in English, but we have guests who don't speak Hebrew. So I asked everyone who came on time, is that okay that I speak in English? And they say okay, and that's why it is in English. Okay, just for those who came late. So what is the garbage collector? What is the purpose of the garbage collector? The garbage collector is executed concurrently with our code, and when it identifies object that is no longer needed, it free that object. It cleans the memory that object captured. This is the purpose of the garbage collector. Basic explanation. A long time ago, we didn't have garbage collector. We don't have garbage collector in C, C++. So if you can recall first versions of Windows operation system, the blue screen, out of memory error, all of that came from mistakes the developers did, forgetting about the need to release specific memory allocation. So that's why we got those messages. So in Python, you basically don't need to worry or too much. It doesn't mean that you can forget about memory management, because problems can happen, but basically you leave that to the garbage collector. You still need to think about what you did, because malfunctions still can happen, and memory problems still can happen in specific cases. But basically, you leave the work for the garbage collector. Okay? Was that okay?
Prevents memory leaks, yes.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's move forward. So we talked about that. Jython. Jython is a version of Python for Java. Java also has a virtual machine. When you code in Java, the code is compiled into Java bytecode, and then the Java bytecode is executed on the virtual machine, on the Java virtual machine. If you write code in Jython, it is actually writing in Python and compiling the code into Java bytecode. So you can actually develop something in Python, compile it into Java bytecode, and execute it, the Java bytecode, together with something you developed in Java. The only problem with the Jython, and the same with IronPython, I didn't see a new version, neither for Jython nor for IronPython for Python 3. I saw a version for Python 2 only. You need to check what happens today. Just go to Jython .org and see if they are still with Python 2. Because if this is the case, then it is not relevant. No, it's difficult to understand. You need to explore it. Okay, I don't want to spend time on that right now. I'll just tell you about IronPython and Jython because there are some projects using these two.
How you do the opposite way? How you develop some module in Java or C and use it in Python?
You can develop modules in Python. Not only in Python, you can do it in other programming languages as well. But here, when we talk about IronPython and Jython, we talk about something else, completely something different than developing modules in a specific programming language other than Python and then using those modules. These are two scenarios. I will explain again. When you use Jython, for example, you develop in Python and you compile the source code in Python into Java bytecode.
And I can use the Python code in Java?
Exactly, and you can use what you got in a software developed in Java.
Executable?
The word executable doesn't fit when we talk about Java. Okay, so let's don't talk about. Let's don't use this word when talking about Java.
An implementation for C++?
You talk about Jython?
Something like Jython.
Okay, I understand. Maybe there is. I can't recall. IronPython the same. You develop in Python and then it is developed into CLR code. CLR code is the equivalent to Java bytecode, the equivalent to the Python bytecode, kind of assembler that is executed on a virtual machine. Okay.
The interpretation, the CLR and the Java Python is moved from.
Those are two separated projects. Imagine that you already have a platform developed in .NET and you want to add something in Python. So you can write that code in Python and compile that code into CLR and then just get a DLL file and add it to the .NET application. For those who know what .NET is and are familiar with DLL files. Those who are not, don't put time on that, okay? Look forward.
DLL you have also in C++.
Yeah, of course, DLL you can also write in C++, but here I tell you about the option to develop a DLL in Python, that's all. But again, even without IronPython and without Jython, we can still develop an application in Python and then take something in Java and wrap it as a module.
So with something like Jython or IronPython, you can compile Python code into a DLL?
IronPython allows you to compile Python code into DLL, not Jython. Jython belongs to the Java world, IronPython to the .NET world.
So I can compile with IronPython my Python code into a DLL and use it from any system that can...
Yes, but still make it really check the project, what the status of that project. The last time I checked, it still doesn't have a version for Python 3, so recheck it. Okay, about modules we already talked. Let's show a small example for writing a module and at the same time explain what function is. So let's imagine that we want to develop a collection of functions. Just a moment. And I recall that. Just a moment. We'll make this folder. There you go. Just a moment. Okay. For the Instagram. Okay. So let's imagine, and also for the group on Meetup. So let's imagine that we want to develop a collection of functions to be used by others and we think about a very nice function. Its name is total, and total receives two values and calculates their sum and returns it. So if you look at this code, this is the way you can see the way we define a function in Python. We use the keyword def.
Def is function.
By the way, those who came late, in the end of the meeting, we will have a small quiz play game using Kahoot, and there is a shirt with the logo of Python in front, on the front part, and just recall that because there will be one question relevant for this specific explanation. So, okay, that's why I made a small pause. Let's move forward. So in Python, you define a function using the def keyword. Then you specify the name of the function, just as in math there is a name for the function. Actually, all functions are anonymous, but I won't get into that issue right now because this is just a jump start. But during the course we see that actually the name of the function is actually kind of a variable that holds a reference for an object, and that object is the function, but we won't dive into this right now, it's not the time. And then you specify the parameters, and you don't need to specify types for the parameters, just specify the parameters, that's all. And then you have the code, okay? And the first line is assignment statement. We already saw that over here. It means that we want to take the values here and calculate the total of these two numbers. We expect that the developers that will use this function will pass over two numbers to the function, and then the total of these two numbers will be calculated into results, meaning result will hold the reference for an object that represents the total, and this is what the function total will return.
But how can you overload the function if you don't know what the variable types are?
You cannot overload functions in Python. I will explain everyone because you threw a bomb. No one knows what overloading is. Or at least some of the people don't know. So overloading in programming is when you have the possibility to define the same function in several versions. So, and the difference between those versions is the number of parameters or the type of the parameter. In Python, you cannot overload a function. It is possible to define a function, we want to say it now, it is possible to define a function that so that when you call it, execute it, you can alternatively pass over two values or three values or four values, but it will be one definition, one function. It is possible to specify default values for parameters a function has, but we are not going to see that right now because we are just covering the basics. Def total is a new function, its name is total, and I defined it in math-utils. And now let's say we have another module. Math-utils is one module, and the other module is, let's say its name is program. And over here, if I want to use what math-utils has to offer, I need to import math-utils. And when I import math-utils, I can now write math-utils dot and invoke functions that were defined in math-utils as the total function. So if I call total and pass over two values, for example, then we can say that temp as a variable is assigned with a reference for an object that represents the total of 3 and 4. Actually, temp is assigned with the reference that the function total returns. And now I will pass over that reference to print it to the screen. So the ability to define a separated module with functions, then reuse that module again and again, it is strong.
You can put a string instead.
Yeah, I can pass over something else and then get unexpected outcome maybe. For example, and this is what I told you before about the bad side of having a dynamic type programming language without the ability to enforce specific types. Because if the other developer who is using math-utils pass over a string, okay, in that case we got an error, but let's say he passed over another string, two strings, let's see what happens now. You see the output? And the other developer doesn't even know that he did a mistake. Yeah. Let's don't dig into it right now. It's not the time nor the place. I just want to show you that the dynamic type programming language has the fact that Python is a dynamic type programming language has two sides, and this is the bad side. So this wasn't the intention. Let's return back to the original intention and let's move forward. Okay, any questions so far? Okay. Here, for example, I import the module sys and I print out sys.version. Sys is a module that already exists in Python, and it has lots of functions and variables. So when you import a module and want to use it, you just specify the name of that module, dot, and whatever you want to use from that module. Comments. There is a website, pypy.org, that has lots of libraries we can easily install. So if you want to do something with Excel, you can install a library specific for Excel, and then you write code, few lines, and you do amazing things with a few lines. So there are lots of libraries. Some are more popular. By the way, a part of the course, if you check the course website, you will see on the bottom banners for professional seminars. If you don't need the course because you have background, you can learn by yourself. Okay, don't take the course, don't waste money. Move forward, learn by yourself. But then take a look at the seminars, because some of the seminars cover topics that are more difficult for self-learning. For example, there is a seminar about object-oriented. If you don't have a clue about object-oriented because you don't know any other object-oriented programming language, learning OOP, object-oriented programming by yourself, is nearly mission impossible. So there is a seminar about object-oriented, there is a seminar about functional programming, there is a seminar about design patterns, an important topic. If you target to the top, you need to know design patterns, and also a seminar covering the Django. If you want to if you pursue web development using Python, then you need to know the Django, at least one of the famous frameworks, and this is one of them. There are a few more. I don't recall at the moment. Can't recall. So there are also those seminars. There are also those meetups, of course. If you take a look at the meetup group here, by the way, the brochure, you can find a list of the coming meetups, but not all of them. I can see that under the free professional lectures, they missed the coming meetup about developing decorators in Python. So I also deliver free meetups covering specific sophisticated topics. It also might be interesting for you. Okay, let's move forward. When we take the break, just keep for yourself. Anyone here came through Eventbrite and not Meetup, by the way? Everyone came from Meetup, no one from Eventbrite. Okay. Okay, type. We already talked about type. Python is dynamic type programming language. We showed that there is the type function. I already showed you how it works. There are type categories, and there are characteristics for each category. One important category is the sequence category, and two important classes, meaning types, is list and tuple, or tuple, depends. So let's just see a sample for list. Creating a list is done using, one of the ways is using the square brackets, and then you can specify the values that list holds. And because Python is a dynamic type programming language, it can be a jungle of strings and numbers and booleans and lists by themselves, and so on. Okay, so this is a list, and if you want to create a tuple, It's the same, just do round brackets, not square brackets. Basically, those two types are the same. Basically, the main difference is that a list is mutable. You can go and say, okay, I want assign to numbers one place 0 instead of the string ABC. I want to assign 99. So over here, instead of a reference for an object of the type str, a reference for an object of the type int will be assigned. It will be an object that represents 99. You can't do it for when working with a tuple, because tuple is immutable. A list is mutable. You can change it, but a tuple is not. So this is something you can't do with tuple. And both have, you can say, a collection of elements. Those can be elements that repeat themselves. Another important type is set. Set is when you use this braces, and then if you have something that repeats itself, it won't, it disappears. So if I specify names and mistakenly I specify the same name twice, it will disappear. And you can see that when writing a loop. A loop is code that goes over the elements. So you can do something like that, text in names, or writing name for name in names. And then pay attention that in Python, when you want to create a block, as it happened here, you don't use braces. You just keep the same space on the left. This is the way for creating a block instead of braces. So over here, I can write print name, and as you can see, even though I specified twice the string then, there will be only one then. You see?
Why we
This
use
is set. Sorry?
This is why we use the set?
Yeah, sometimes set is a group of elements that cannot repeat themselves, and they don't keep an order. There is no order. I mean, the fact that right now you got these three in this order doesn't mean that the next time you will get the same order. In list, you do have an order. The same with tuple, you have order. But in list and tuple, elements can repeat. For example, over here, I specify ABC twice, you see? And now when I do for number in numbers 2, print number 2, I will get ABC printed twice. You see? ABC is printed twice. Okay, I can do the same with tuple as well. Okay, so but okay, the same order, yeah. The order is maintained. Okay, so there is the set category. I've just demonstrated it. There's the mapping category, is key value pairs. So if you create a dict object, and you can do it doing this way, you specify key and the value. Key and the value. Keys cannot repeat themselves. So if you specify the same key twice, the second time is the one that takes place. So for example, if I take this code, so here I created a dict object with 3 key value pairs. If I want to print a specific value, the value of a specific key, I can do it this way. I just need to specify the key I want to specify its value. I can also do it by writing square bracket like this. This is also a way for getting the value of a specific key in a dict object I work with. Here, for example, A is assigned with a reference for a dict object. Maybe I will just use the toy for a moment. So when you have a dict object, it's an object that actually you can imagine it as a board on which you have keys, and each key is connected with an object. Okay, and this is the dict object. It has a reference. And this is the reference being assigned to a variable we work with. Let's say the variable OB or whatever it is. So if we go back to what we have over here, it's a variable A. Let's change it to OB to be the same. Then we can imagine that OB is assigned with a reference for the dict object, and that dict object has 3 key value pairs. Now if you use the same key twice, the second time is the one that takes place. So if I, for example, write here the same key value pair, but the value would be, instead of David McGann, it would be Superman. Superman is the one we have. So if I execute it and specify, okay, and take this over here and execute it, I will get the second one, Superman, okay? Not the first one. Okay. But, yeah,
It's the second or the last?
if you use the same key twice, the second time you were using it, this is the key value pair that we will have.
But you said
It's the last time
you
you
said
use
that the order
the key.
is not meaningful. So
And there is no order. The order, if exists, is the order of the keys, but there is no order. But when you go over the code from left to right, this is the code. This is the order in which the code is executed. So, if, for example, for instance, over here I add another line and write OB like this, assigned with Spider-Man, then Spider-Man will take the place of Superman, and then we will have Spider-Man printed to the screen because this was the last assignment. Okay? So, but look, just one comment. Maybe during this meetup, I will be a bit fast for some of you. It is highly important for me to make sure that you understand that during the course itself, and you can ask, there are a few who are attending another course I deliver now, I'm always with the students, and if there is a need, I slow down, provide more explanation, more diagrams, more code, okay? And besides, before every meeting, I always give the links for the video clips that were captured in the previous course, so you can come prepared. A part of that, I also capture on video what happens during class, so you can go over the material after. So you don't, if someone wants to make the effort and to move forward and learn and reach the highest level possible, it is up to him. I give everything that is needed. Everything covered with slides. I don't speak out. So there is a framework, assignments. Everything is organized on online Moodle installation on my website. So you have assignments and solutions when needed, and you need to make an effort in between the meetings, of course. But there are lots of things that help. During the courses, during the training itself. I also broadcast every meeting, so if someone can't come, you can even join using your mobile telephone. You just need to get to install the required application or browse a specific URL, and then you can see my screen during the meeting, hear my explanation, and ask questions. No, I'm using GoToMeeting. I pay for them for that platform, and of course, if something happens and you took a course and for some reason things didn't went well, automatically every student in every course can join every future cycle if a place is available, if a seat is available, and if a seat is not available, it can still join but online. Because for me it's important to maintain that the room won't include more than 14 people. And usually it's less than that. And it is always in places like this. I mean, I never take a lousy small classroom. It's not convenient. It doesn't fit the topic we deal with. It's not, doesn't go well. Okay, I want to make a small break. Okay, 10 minutes break, is that okay? There are capsules you can take. There is also tea and coffee in different sizes. And there are also coffee, simple coffee, tea, etc. Just take what you want, and beer if you want as well. זיום. לפני שאנחנו ממשיכים, אז שימו לב שאם אתם נכנסים ל-meetup.com/laugh-michael, זה בעצם העמוד של המיטאפ גרופ שאני יצרתי. כאן אפשר לראות את ה-upcoming event, ואחד מהם, למי שנמצא פה במקרה ויש לו רקע חזק בפייתון, the power of the curators in Python, אולי יעניין אותו. כאן גם אפשר למצוא ב-more את האופציה שנקראת message boards, וכאן ב-message board יש את ה-messages. אז כל אימייל שאני שולח, אני תמיד דואג שהוא יופיע גם ב-message board, וכאן נמצא הלינק לאימייל ששלחתי היום בצהריים, האימייל שבו גם ציינתי את הלינקים מאיפה להוריד את הפייתון runtime, ומאוד חשוב להוריד ולהתקין את הפייתון runtime לפני שאתם מורידים ומתקינים את הפייצ'ארם, כי אז פייצ'ארם יזהה איפה פייתון מותקן, יהיה לכם יותר קל, לא תסתבכו. אז יחסוך לכם בדיוק, משהו כזה. כאן גם יש, אני גם מאוד אשמח אחרי המיטאפ אם אתם תיתנו פידבק, יש לכם אפשרות לתת פידבק למיטאפ, זה מאוד מאוד חשוב לי. גם פידבק פה מאוד עוזר לי, צריך להבין, אני לא חברה גדולה ועם מחלקת שיווק משומנת, ממש לא, פרסומות בחוצות הדרכים ולא מפזר הבטחות דמיוניות. בואו תירשמו לקורס ותהיה לכם עבודה, ואז אתה מגיע לאותיות הקטנות, אין כזה דבר. מי שטוב יש לו עבודה, זו המציאות, ואם אתם רוצים להיות טובים, תבחרו את הקורס שבאמת יעזור לכם להגיע למקום הזה, שנקרא באמת להיות טובים. תעשו השוואה של הסילבוסים, תעשו השוואה אמיתית של כל קורס וקורס. אז מאוד יעזור לי גם כל מילה טובה, אם אתם למשל זורקים בפייסבוק, יש לי פייג' של לייף מייקל, תכף אני אראה לכם איך להגיע לשם, אבל לפני כן שימו לב, הלינק של הקורס, python.course.lifemichael.com, יש פה הרבה מידע נוסף, פה אפשר לראות את הלינק לסילבוס, ולינק לברושור, קובץ PDF שמפרט את כל הפרטים. יש גם קורס קצר יותר, אני לא ממליץ עליו, זה קורס מיועד בעיקר לכאלה שמגיעים מחברות, חברות אוהבים קורסים קצרים יותר, 8 שעות כל מפגש עם איזה ארוחת צהריים. אני לא חושב שזו הדרך הנכונה ללמוד, הדרך הנכונה זה באמת להשקיע ולאורך זמן לקיים את התהליך. יש פה למטה גם לינקים לסמינרים שדיברתי עליהם, ואני היום בשלב שבו אני בונה לכל סמינר ובסייט נפרד. אז למשל Functional Programming כבר יש איזה ובסייט, ונכנסים, כשאתה נכנס פה לוובסייט.
Why do you separate between
Oh, I forgot, I talk in Hebrew.
That's okay.
And I promise that everything will be in English. Sorry. אתם הבנתם אותי? קומצי קומצה. Sorry, I will, okay.
Separate functional and
Functional programming is one topic, object-oriented programming is another topic.
Object-oriented, yes. Why do you
The course itself includes, well, the seminars, for example, the object-oriented seminar is included within the course. Functional programming partly included within the course. Other seminars, over you can see the seminars, design patterns in the course is covered very, very little. Maybe one pattern, but here we have 2 meetings that allow us to cover around 10 patterns, 8 to 10 design patterns, multi-threaded and multi-processing as well. It's a topic that the course cover, but not everything that there is to cover. Here we have 2 meetings that cover beyond. The Django is not included in the course. Functional programming, I told you before about it. Python and MongoDB is not included in the course, it's separated seminar, and my plan is to develop more and more seminars. Usually the seminars are seminars that I deliver in one way or another in companies I work with. I deliver training to Python developers or people that become Python developers in many companies here in Israel. Companies where I already taught, delivered training includes here in Herzliya is there Siren, DSPG. In Ramadan we have Samsung. I work with Samsung for many years. By the way, it's one of the first. Israel is one of the first, if not the first, countries that Samsung was ready to take out R&D and set it up in a different country. Israel was the first selected by Samsung to maintain R&D for the products developed by Samsung. Orbotech and few more companies I already forgot probably. So this is my main job. But when it comes to public training, I'm not a big company with marketing, etc., etc. So every help would be highly appreciated. Okay, so let's. Yeah,
going into GPUs and that.
In multi-threading, we talk about multi-threading on top level using the threading module, and then we talk about multi-processing, and we talk about GIL, Global Interpreter Lock, if you know, but we're not going into programming in C, not C.
No, not C, Python directly, but writing on CUDA and that sorts of things. Optimizing.
No. We just cover the possibilities you have when using the threading module, mainly possibilities related to synchronizing between separated different threads, and the same with the process. You have a module that allows you to separate the execution to separated processes. So each process does something else, and they are executed really in parallel. When you have more than one core, there is no other way but using multi-processing development. And we talk about it and explain the limitations specifically in Python because of GIL, G-I-L. Just Google G-I-L Python and you will read about it. So this is what happens in these two meetings. The seminars usually are either two meetings in the evening. Each meeting is 5 academic hours, or one long meeting, big meeting, 8-hour academic hours from 9 to 5, and then we also have lunch. And the price is always the same. Okay, let's get back where we stopped.
Can I ask a little bit about the runtime? The runtime, you have Python 3.8, 3.7, and 3.6. What is the best at your eyes, and what is the really?
The runtime, well, you have new versions released continuously, and I make an effort to update the training material and add the new stuff added in each new version.
Yeah, but you have a new version of the 3.6, the 3.7, and 3.8.
And it takes time to update the training material with all the new stuff coming out in each one of these new versions. And I do it. And the training material is highly maintained.
And what is the difference between the 3.6 Python and the 3.8?
There are differences. There are things. There are specific classes or specific functions you can use or specific keywords or specific decorators you can use in 3.8, but you can't use in 3.7. There are differences. You can find in Google a list that lists the exact differences between each version.
אחד לא ירוץ לך לשני, בדוק מה שנקרא, שתקרוץ לך.
No, it depends what you do.
אתה מלמד גם איך כאילו, כשיתעדכנו גרסאות, איך להתקן את הקוד שלנו, איך כאילו להתאים את זה, איך מתקנים את הגרסאות בלי
Okay, I will repeat the question. The question was, do I teach how to update the code when we have a new Python version released? Well, I make an effort to provide you with the tool, or let's say, how do you say when going to fish there is a long stick, you call it, what is the name of that long stick? Pole. Fishing pole. I'm doing my best. I provide you with a fishing pole and not the fish itself. So one of the things I do when delivering courses that the students include new ones, green ones, because some of the students that come to the Python course are already well experienced, some are not. And if you don't have background, you need to pass, there is a compatibility exam. Not everyone can join the course. But if you joined, and usually you are not alone, there are a few more in the same position, the same status, with the same status, and I make an effort to explain how to learn, to help you to develop your own specific learning skills, because the learning skill, each one of us learn in a different way. And there are tools that I present and tips I give, and making the effort that you will develop the best methodology for you for learning new stuff. And then when there is a new version of Python, you are expected by everyone to learn, to go over the text and read what are the differences and learn by yourself. And if it is difficult, take a course, or usually when you have experience in software development, with time you find that it is simpler to learn by yourself. It might be faster taking a seminar or course, and then some experienced developers prefer taking a course, but in the beginning, usually you must have a course, someone to go with you until you get to a level where you can continue by yourself. And it can happen in your first programming language, maybe the second, maybe the third. It's individual, it changes from one person to another. Okay, it's also a question of capabilities, background, etc. Was that okay? Yeah, okay. So, okay, I want to move forward with the topics we covered, and okay, this is what I planned for today. Well, let's get back to the slides. Okay, we talked about different types, categories, and okay, variable is a place in memory, is a memory location with a name, and assigning a variable with a value means that the space, the memory area allocated for the number num_a, for example, is assigned with a reference for the object that represents what we see, the number 2, for example. It is very important to remember that in Python everything is represented using objects. Every value is an object. You see a number, imagine that there is an object that represents that number, and there is a variable that can hold the reference for that object. Even a function is an object. So we talked about object and references, and here is a small diagram similar to what we already did. We talked about the garbage collector. Shared references, what does it mean? Well, it is important to pay attention to the fact that it might happen that the same object with a reference, the same reference will be stored in separated variables, and it means something. For example, let's say that we have numbers, a variable numbers 1, assigned with a reference for a list object that includes references for object that represent numbers. Now, if I assign numbers 2 with the value of numbers 1, it means that numbers 2 as a variable holds the same reference numbers 1 holds. So if we take the toy, place ID works. Just a moment. Okay. I enjoyed the toy. So we have numbers 1. We have numbers 2. And actually in numbers 1 there is a reference for an object that represents a list. So we can write F, B, C, 22 for example. So it would be F, B, C, 22. And then when we have numbers 2 assigned with number 1, it means that the memory area that its name is numbers 2 is assigned with the same reference that numbers 1 holds. So we have over here F, B, C, 22. So if there is a list, and list is kind of an array, and then let's say that the next thing is, now I go and do like that, numbers 2 in space in cell 0. You can imagine a list object as cells, rooms, and each cell has a number, index number, and starts with 0. So when I say numbers 2, place 0, please assign that space with 99, and then I want to print numbers 1 in index 0. What will be printed?
99.
No, this is numbers 2, 0.
No, 99.
The whole thing.
You change just number
Efes.
2.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What do you think?
I think it will go to 2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4. Who thinks 2, 3, 4 will be printed to the screen? Let's see how many things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, who thinks different? Okay, what do you think?
99.
Who thinks 99? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's execute. 99. And why is that?
Because it's
The moment you assign numbers 2 with the value of numbers 1, it doesn't matter whether you write numbers 2 or numbers 1 and then 0 in square brackets. It is actually the same, because numbers 2 and numbers 1 is the same. It's the same reference. So we actually refer to the same cell in the same. Okay. So if you want me to explain it a bit more, let's go back to the toy. Back to the toy. What we had here was actually assigning this with the value 99. So now it doesn't matter whether you print numbers 1 and then 0 in square brackets, or numbers 2 and then 0 in square brackets. It's actually the same. You will get 99 printed to the screen. Okay? Is that okay? Okay.
It's a little confusing if you are
Of course.
not accustomed to it.
Of course.
אז איך אתה מעתיק את נומברס 1, אם אתה רוצה להעתיק אותו לזיכרון חדש?
If you want, there are ways to doing this. Well, we don't have the time to cover that. Everything is covered in the course. Okay. Shared preference. Operators. Operators is, well, we have lots of operators in Python. Some of them are very simple to understand. Plus is operator. You do 2 plus 3, you get 5. Some are less intuitive, and then you need to go over them in detail. Well, we don't have time to go over everything, but for example, one thing I want to show you is division. We have division using 1 slash, and there is a division using 2 slashes. And the idea of 2 slashes is actually getting what many call it floor division. A floor division means that the result will be downgraded to the lowest number without any decimal, and without anything, without a decimal point. I will explain it by showing an example. Floor division. Look, let's say we have A assigned with 3, let's say 32, okay, and B assigned with 10. Now, if we do A slash B, and then print the outcome, this is a simple division. Look, take a look at the outcome, 3.2. Now, if I do a floor division, then I will get it downgraded to 3. Might be convenient in specific cases, so use it.
You have a module application as well?
We have modulo. Modulo, yeah, the question was, can we get a modulo? Modulo means the residual. Here it is. Modulo 5, modulo 3 is the residual from dividing 5 by 3, and it is 2. It's just another, for example, temp assigned with 7 module 3, the result should be 1, because when you divide 7 by 3 you get 2, and there is the residual 1. So we have that as well, of course. Okay, you get 1. Okay. Okay, we saw for a simple demo for for loop, but of course we also have the simpler controllers. For example, if statement, if x bigger than y, then do this and this and this and this and this. Of course, pay attention that we don't have blocks with this bracelet. We use a column, okay, and then the next line we keep the same space in order to have a block. Okay. Handling exceptions, meaning when calling a function that something might get wrong in that function, and then an object that describes the malfunction is created, and then we can catch it in the except block and do something with it. Handling exceptions, exactly. Okay, about assignments, basic form assignment, we talked. If statement, this is a if, meaning that if this is true, then do everything that is here. If not, then check this condition, and if it is true, do everything that comes here. If not, check this condition and do everything that comes afterwards, and so on.
You don't have a switch case loop?
You can emulate a switch using a different syntax.
You don't have a defined switch case in Python?
No. Okay. You probably know it from math, and or not. So in Python you write the words and or not.
And what about XOR?
No, you don't have it when it comes to logical.
I do have XOR operation.
You have XOR when working on bits.
What is XOR?
Let's don't get into it, okay?
Function.
Let's don't get into it. I didn't see it. I hardly use it. If it exists, it is possible that maybe it exists and didn't notice, but I doubt. Okay, if while loop. While is while something is true, do something. For example, let's write a short demo. While demo. So we have the variable I signed with 1. Then I specify while I smaller than or equal than 10. I want to print I to the screen. And then don't forget to increase the value of I by 1, so it won't be an infinite loop. And then you can see using the while loop, I get printed to the screen all numbers between 1 and 10. Simple while loop, very similar to while in other programming languages. The same with, we also have do while. For works differently, I showed you before. Yeah, we are limit in time. And then about function, I already showed you that in order to define a simple function, we use the def keyword, def, the name of the function, then we have parameters, and then we have the body of the function as we did before. It's very simple to define new functions. Classes. Okay, so we talked about classes well, in the course we go in depth and we cover it properly, and there is also a separated seminar for object-oriented. By the way, those who don't have any background in object-oriented but find learning Python by themselves simple, do it by yourself. But when you get to the object-oriented part, don't be panicked. It is very difficult to learn object-oriented in Python unless you already know object-oriented in other programming language. So when you get to that part, my recommendation is getting help, because it is difficult to learn by yourself. And this whole topic, especially when you get to more sophisticated assignment scenarios, and then you get lost. So just get prepared. Functional programming is also a bit more difficult, and threads also, but object-oriented is the most difficult, in my opinion, challenge to overcome by yourself. It's mission impossible unless you already know object-oriented in other programming language. Okay, so when we define a class, you actually create a skeleton, kind of template you can use for creating new objects. So take a look over here. We have an example for the class rectangle. You create a new object by calling the class as if it was a function, and it is a function. Actually, when you define a class, an object is created. It represents the class, but that object is also a function. It is a callable object. So you can specify rectangle, open braces, and then you actually invoke the function represented by the same object that represents the class. Now the values you pass over are actually passed over to the function init that works as a constructor for those who are familiar with object-oriented. Those who are not, it is a very difficult topic when you approach it for the first time. Usually in the universities and colleges, there is a separated course for object-oriented programming, and in most cases they don't learn it in the first year. They usually start it only in the second year. And I know that because I also teach well, now these days I teach only in two places. I teach only in Shankar, and there is a program for software engineering, and I also teach in HIT. There is a program for BSc in computer science. So I teach both places. I teach the specific courses in the last year, advanced courses. In the past, I also found myself teaching in other places. It was a few times in the Technion. I also delivered courses in Tel Chai. At that time, it was with airplane. It was State Dov. I drove to State Dov and airplane, Tel Chai, and then back. It was an adventure. But today I do only these two places. I'm fed up. So I tell that so those of you who don't have background will be ready when they approach the object-oriented topic. It is not a simple topic to learn. I will try my best in 2-3 minutes to give you something to go with. When you define a class, imagine that it is kind of a template for creating cookies, as I explained before. And here, when I define the class rectangle, every object created from the class rectangle is instantiated from the class rectangle. And here I have two objects. Each one of them represents a specific rectangle, because this was the purpose of defining the class rectangle, so I could instantiate it again and again and get more and more objects. Each one represents a specific rectangle with specific dimensions. And when I pass over these two values, they actually find themselves inside the two variable width and height that every object instantiated from rectangle has. Then you can see the definition for area, and over here you can see how I invoke area on each one of the two objects that were created from the class rectangle, and each invocation returns a specific value, and it is a different value because each invocation of area is on another object. And when area is invoked, self.width is the value of width in the very same object on which area is invoked. So if we want to draw something to explain what happens here, so let's get back to the toy. So we actually have two variables here, A and B, and A is assigned with a reference for an object that represents one rectangle. B is assigned with a reference for an object that represents another. And each one of these objects has those two variables, width and height. Just that. And of course, there is the reference to just numbers, of course, mean nothing. 2F C4, C4A3.
The address.
And then with an int, for example, over here, each one of them holds a reference for another object. This object represents the value 3. It is an object from the class int, as you recall. And this object represents the value 4. It is an object instantiated from the class int. And each one of these two objects has a reference. So these two variables actually hold those references. If you want, we can dig into it, and no problem. I will say.
You can do that the object will be the self class itself.
Just a moment. Just let me complete the small painting. C8B2, and this is F2C. Let's say. This is what happens, and the same with the other object. And when the method area is invoked on this object, we get the value of self.width multiplied by self.height, which means the value 3 multiplied by 4. So you actually invoke the function area on an object. You don't pass width and height to that function. The function retrieves the values it needs from the object itself, the object on which it is executed. So actually the function area returns back the area of that rectangle represented by the very specific object on which it was invoked. Now, for those of you that listen to my explanation and this is the first time they deal with object-oriented, don't be panicked if it is a bit complicated. It is normal. This is one of the more difficult topics to learn, so we cover it properly during the course. I stretch the time allocated for this topic, so actually we do it in 4 or 5 meetings because I stretch it. I prefer moving forward with the other topics, but allocating part of the meeting for object-oriented to move forward into it a bit more and covering a bit more and stretch the time allocated for OOP so it would be more than 2 meetings. Okay, so let's stop the toy just a moment. Okay, I'm back to here. Well, inheritance, just, okay, it was wishful thinking that we will have time for that. 2-3 words about functional programming. It is basically about working with functions, passing over a function to another function, calling a function and get back a function, return from the function you invoke, creating new functions based on functions that already exist, using less variables and more functions, recursive functions, etc., etc. It's not a simple topic for lots of recursive functions, also a bit more difficult topic to learn. It doesn't happen in one day. Usually when the course starts, I say, okay, about recursive functions, take a look at these specific videos. I do it kind of 2 months before we reach the functional programming topic, so people can start watching videos I already prepared and get ready, because it is a difficult topic to understand. But the more explanations you hear, the more you play with it, the more code you write, the more prepared you are for the meeting itself. And then when the meeting comes and you listen and watch the video that was captured in the previous course, then you are ready and things are working much better than otherwise. So this is I don't know if you are familiar with the term, there is a methodology in learning known as reverse learning. Anyone heard about, no, not reverse engineering, reverse learning. Has anyone heard about that methodology? Anyone? No one?
You just look at the work and then try to recreate.
No. Well, in some places in the world, they already implemented. The idea, it goes like that. Before the meeting itself, the students get a video that explains the topic. When the meeting starts, we don't waste time. We just focus on those specific questions left. by the students when they overview the material. I mean, we usually cover just the more difficult topics, 5, 10, 15 minutes, and we cover, and that's it. And then we move forward to practice, assignments, and lots of assignments, a big project the students work on and get assistance from the one that guide them. So this is the best way for learning, but in my courses, in the courses that you can find brochures for, we don't do it. But we do use the videos I can give before so people can come ready. So if someone, there is a student that is very important for him to reach the highest level because he wants to work in this field, he wants to move forward, he wants to get to an attractive company, and I have lots of ex-students in attractive companies. Just name it. Every company you name, it can be the Facebook, Apple, Google, and it can be companies less popular, less known. I don't know. But usually when you throw a stone to a company, there is someone, at least 2-3 people that were my students in the past. So if you want to reach the highest level possible, I can deliver everything you need to do it. And I will guide you and I will be with you in the difficult moments. But it is up to you. Can I do the work? Eventually, just coming to the meeting and expect that someone will wait and take you for a job, forget about it. Okay?
Not enough time.
Not to be lazy, huh?
Yes, of course.
It's not paying and be lazy.
Okay, so I want to move forward to the Kahoot quiz. Okay, so this is not good. No, I showed you the questions, not good. Install Kahoot, please. Kahoot on your device. I know what I do. Not good. Install Kahoot. You can either install the application or browse. There is the price, the shirt, the T-shirt. You don't want the T-shirt? It's the Python logo in front. You have one?
No, I'm saying that I need to leave now.
Oh, so you will miss the shirt. But in the course there is a nicer one, a black one. Yeah.
We just come to the course
For the T-shirt.
Yeah, for the T-shirt.
Yeah.
The website say, please give me games.
Okay, so
Okay, so how do you know where to go?
okay, you should enter the PIN number. This is the number. ויש פה את הברושורים של תשכחו שמעוניין. אתם ידעתם למשל ש-PHP היא השפה הכי פופולרית בפיתוח סרבר סייד של Web Applications? 79% מכל ה-Web Sites ב-Web, הסרבר סייד שלהם כתוב ב-PHP?
אבל
זה טוב נורא, אתה PHP
PHP של היום זה כבר לא אומר של פעם, זה משהו אחר לגמרי, PHP 7. אבל אם אתה שבוי בפרסומת בהעברה שעושים כל ה-Developers שכותבים ב-Node.js היום, אז תקח לזה. אבל להצמד למציאות, 79% מכל ה-Website, צד השרת שלהם כותב ב-PHP.
בקדימה זה אנגולר.
מה?
בקדימה הריאקט הוא אנגולר.
לא, גם דרך אגב, אנגולר או ריאקט זה ממש לא דברים הפופולריים ביותר, ג'קו הוא הרבה יותר פופולרי. אז אם אתם בכיוון של פרונט-אנד, זה קורס שאומנם התחיל, אבל מי שיש לו רגע בפיתוח יכול עדיין להצטרף.
מי שבכיוון של דבו?
דבו זה רק פייתון.
ודאטה
זה
סיינטיסט.
Java זה Java זה Python.
ודאטה סיינטיסט אין לך.
Python.
פייתון. אין לך, אבל איך אני אגיד התייחסות מיוחדת.
לא, התחום של זה לבנות יותר סמינרים. דדיקייטד ספציפי לנושאים, זה נושא גדול וגם שם יש נושאים ספציפיים. אבל אם את כיוון דאטה סיינס, לא להעז אפילו להתחיל ללמוד את הנושא בלי לדעת פייתון כמו שצריך. כעת מה שיקרה, את תמצאי את עצמך במצב שאת לא מסוגלת לכתוב קוד. ואז מה זה שווה? עדיף לדעת פייתון כמו שצריך, ואז ללמוד לעבוד על הספרויות השונות שיש בדאטה סיינס, וללמוד את הנושא עצמו. כדי שזה לא יקשה עליי. זה הצעה שלי, והרבה פעמים לקורסים מגיעים אנשים שהתחילו דאטה סיינס, או במקביל לדאטה סיינס, שבאים ללמוד פייתון כמו שצריך. זו האמת. אוקיי, יש עוד מישהו שמנסה להיכנס ולא הצליח? יש מישהו שמנסה ולא הצליח? אוקיי, אז אנחנו מתחילים. אני רק אסביר את המשחק. Oh, forgot. You didn't tell me anything. I started talking in Hebrew and you didn't tell me. Well, the question is in English. You have it? You entered the PIN number? Okay. And what, sorry?
It's the mother
tongue.
So
My mother tongue is Java. It could be Python, but it's Java. Anyway, this is the t-shirt. I have few sizes, so the one who wins will probably have the one that fits him, or air. And the game goes like that. There are 9 questions. Each question... Sorry? You want the t-shirt?
Another participant.
Okay.
They want to enter.
No, this password is for the Wi-Fi. No?
No, Hebrew.
It's a zero instead of a O.
Like this. Zero. You are also English only?
Yeah.
Maybe I will start delivering meetups in English and that's it. It will be a good screening for those who do not fit my courses.
No, it's good because you develop in English. So.
Yeah, exactly. But now seriously, the course and the seminars are delivered in Hebrew. There was one time in which I offered the long-term course to be in English, and I thought maybe it would be interesting, but it wasn't a success, so I stopped doing that. The courses I deliver here in Israel are in Hebrew. The training material always in English, of course. So just to be clear about that, something about the course.
We're waiting for the question.
Okay, okay. So each question has 4 answers. You get points if you answer correctly, but those who answer faster get more points. So it isn't just about answering correctly. You also need to be fast. Okay, very important to be fast and be focused so you don't mismatch and press another button. And even if you don't feel that you are going to win, be patient. Things happen. Okay? Okay, so can we start? Yes? Okay. Come on, let's start. Okay, great. Of course, those who came late. No problem. Come on time next time. Guido van something, okay? So the winner for now is Lior. Okay. Are you ready for the next question? Python. Okay, Lior is still the winner. Let's move forward. Yes, maybe it's confused though. JPython. Well, they wanted JPython, but they had a problem with copyright for the name JPython, so they settled with Jython. This is the story, Jython. Okay, let's see. Slavic. Where is the or? I told you, changes happen. Slavic.
But Polina is all the time.
Polina?
All the time.
All the
She's
time.
shakel.
Shakel. Polina is shakel.
English and Arabic together.
Okay. Wow, that was fast. And everyone is correct. But let's see who is more correct than others. Slavic. Slavic is back to the picture. Slavic.
Who is Slavic?
Who is Slavic?
Yay!
Slavic.
He is one of us.
One of us. Okay, next. Okay, it wasn't too difficult. Let's see, Slavic. Okay.
Oh, but Polina also.
Next question. אוקיי, דג'אנגו, כולכם צדקתם, ואנחנו מתקדמים. שאלה, סלאביק מנצח, אבל תשמע, יש לך אחריך פה צמוד ביותר. תתרכזו, כי בדרך כלל בשלבים האלה, אלה שמובילים מתבלבלים. אוקיי, נקסט. שאלה 7. אוקיי, בואו נראה איזה ספר אנחנו נמצאים כרגע. סלאביק, אבל תשמע, האחרים נושפים בעורפך. יש עוד 2 שאלות, חברים. לא להרים ידיים, תאמינו לי. Changes happen. Trust me. ובכן צדקתם, מי שחשב שיש כזאת מילה בשם לופ אז אין, אבל ווייל יש וראינו. נקסט. נראה שעכשיו זו שאלה האחרונה. מוכנים?
Slavic and Polina, they are the couple.
אוקיי. זה לא למדנו, נכון? נכון, לא למדנו. זה הכל לומדים. בואו נראה.
Polina and Slavic, together.
אוקיי. רגע, עכשיו שמוזיקה.
maybe 11. Slavic.
מזל טוב. אז איזה מידה? יש גם מדיום. הנה, מדיום תנסה. חפש?
תודה רבה.
בבקשה. תודה שנהנתם ונשמח לכל פידבק בכל מקום אפשרי. תודה.